What's up, y'all? It's Mr. 6'8". We back at you with a new video. And listen, I have some really sad news to sit here and report to y'all. So apparently a mother of 4 was unalive. I'm gonna put it like that for lack of a better word. Life was taken too soon. Just brutally taken by a neighbor, by her neighbor that stayed either I think next door to her. Her name was Ajika AJ Owens. She was a mother of 4, and apparently she went to go and knock on a neighbor's door respectfully to talk to the neighbor in regards to an incident or a dispute or a situation that happened between the neighbor and her kids, which led to her unfortunately losing her life when the neighbor, this person right here, whose shade room failed to identify when they first posted the story, took the initiative upon themselves on a door that was already shut and fired through the door, hitting Ajika AJ Owens while her 9-year-old was standing next to her. Very sad. Roll that beautiful bean footage. We're gonna get into it. Here we go. Because there had been so many conflicting reports and conflicting stories, and I wanted to make sure I get the facts right. But nonetheless, I did take a couple of notes, so just bear with me here. So it did state that on last Saturday, which Saturday, by the way, would have been, let me look on the calendar. Last Saturday would have been June the 3rd, I believe. Yes, June the 3rd. Last Saturday, June the 3rd, it says on 9 p.m. Saturday night. I heard somebody else report Friday night, but her attorney, I believe, stated it was 9 p.m. Saturday night, that a mom of 4 whose kids was playing in a field that was next door to the apartment complex where they lived at, which was also next door to a neighbor's house by the name of Susan Lawrence. Once again, this is Susan, as I mentioned before. The field that you see that I'm showing a picture of, that field sits in the middle between the apartment and Susan's house. The teenagers had been playing, well, not the teenagers, because I think they actually range from the years between ages of 3 to 12 years old. But they were playing in the field, it says, according to what has been stated here. And in the midst of playing in the field, the lady by the name of Susan Lawrence, she was a white woman, she went out. And the only reason why I'm mentioning her color is because of the fact that based on the details and the things that happened that led up to the events, it definitely seemed to be racially motivated. So I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. And it appears that they were playing in the yard and that the neighbor basically was saying to get off her property, yelling racial slurs basically, and just constantly going off on the kids. It was at that particular point that, I guess, I don't know if there was some back and forth between the kids, but at some particular point, the kids proceeded to leave the field that sits in the middle between the apartment complex and Susan's house. And one of the kids forgot to get the iPad, so they went back to go and retrieve the iPad. And in doing so, Susan took it upon herself to go and throw allegedly a pair of skates at the child before actually breaking the iPad, because when the kid went back to go and get the iPad, Susan actually took the iPad, would not give it back, and then when she did give it back, she threw it at the children, cracked the iPad, which resulted in the kids going to tell their mother. So that's pretty much what led up to the first part of the incident. Okay, just as a quick side note, this also happened in the Stand Your Ground, Florida state, which we know down there in Florida don't nothing ever go right. This actually happened in Ocala, Florida, to be precise. And I also wanted to sit here and mention that there had also been stated that there had been ongoing disputes and arguments and exchanges for a while going on between, I guess, both neighbors, which was Ajika AJ Owens, whether it was her, the kids, and Susan, who was the neighbor that actually, fired the pulled the trigger. And so there had been stuff already ongoing before this had actually even happened. As a matter of fact, it had been stated that there had been ongoing phone calls to 911 over the actual disputes on them, actually coming out and responding to the calls.
And a neighbor reportedly had an issue with where they were.
She has called the cops just for them playing. She calls them names.
On Friday, whatever happened between the neighbor and the children, it led the children's mother, Ajike Owens, to the woman's door.
Whether it be
calls because of stuff that I just mentioned in the previous clip. So I just wanted you all to put a pin thumb in it as I go forward here. Now we're going to actually pick up to where things started to kind of get a little bit murky in terms of what led up to the actual shooting. So after the actual dispute between Owens' children and the actual neighbor, Owens went to the shooter's house to actually confront her about striking one of the kids with a pair of roller skates, according to the police report. People at the scene told police that Owens had begun knocking on her neighbor's door when a weapon was fired within the home. Bullets went through the front door and hit Owens, is what it states. After, at that particular point, Owens also staggered back and collapsed beneath a tree, calling 911 as she did. When police arrived, police were gathered around her trying to give her medical aid. They began screaming that the shooter was inside of the residence. The alleged shooter stayed in her house until police arrived and took her into custody. Now, mind you, I want you to actually sit here and let that marinate. So just to kind of paint a picture, when the kids went back to go get their mom, Ajike A.J. Owens returned with her 9-year-old to knock on the door of Susan Lawrence because of the fact that she wanted to have a civilized conversation with her on, what was going on and to try to get to the bottom of it. Now, there had also been conflicting reports stated by the Marion County Sheriff down in Ocala of them trying to allege that, supposedly she had been beating on the windows, and Ajike A.J. Owens had been beating on the windows and doing all kind of other crazy stuff to, I guess, instigate what led up to, her untimely passing. But that has definitely been denied by the people who actually was in that community, because the people that was in that community, it was stated that they spend their time a lot outside watching the kids and stuff, because the kids play with each other and things like that there. So they stated that that did not happen from what I understand, what was read in the statements. So when they went up to the door and the knock on the door, it was at that particular point that Susan on the other side with the door shut went in, pretty much, took her weapon and stuff, and she fired, and pretty much at that point the bullet went through the door. Here's a picture of the actual hole where you can see the hole in the door, and the hole, when she shot through it, it hit Ajike, and she staggered backwards, and basically here's her 9-year-old just sit here watching all of this craziness unfold. And I just can only imagine what that must be like for a 9-year-old to witness such a horrific scene of her mother, of his mother being, tragically taken down like that. Now, I did see in the police statement it said on Friday, even though I told you all Saturday. So I'm still a little conflicted on if it happened maybe over Friday night going into Saturday, and maybe that's why they put Friday. But I just wanted to point that out as well. Now, I also wanted to point out that after all of this happened, witnesses say that they saw Susan actually which was the white woman, being escorted out of her house by police. And it had been stated allegedly, and I'm going to say allegedly because, I like to be very factual, but it seems at this point that it was pretty much concrete that she was escorted by police and taken into police custody at that particular point. I also did see a family member right here in this post on TikTok make a comment about how, all of Susan Lawrence's social media accounts, her presence online had been scrubbed, and that basically it seemed like that Susan, who was the person that actually pulled the trigger, was put into protective custody in order to, I guess, until they get to the bottom of the investigation, if you want to call it that. Even though I don't understand what is there to investigate when you clearly have a situation to where somebody approached a door of somebody else's house with their 9-year-old child and they felt threatened, so they just took it upon themselves not even to open the door to see what the threat was and just fired a gun. But neither here nor there, child. Now, also, since as about an hour or more, it's probably about 3 or 4 hours ago because of when this video was recorded, that the family members stated that there had been an arrest made for Susan, and that there are pending charges for whatever the charges that they were able to stick to Susan. Those are the charges that they stick as they applied to the situation.
Y'all, I'm shaking and I'm trying to keep my emotions together because I'm at work. They got her. They arrested her. They have multiple charges pending: child abuse, murder, manslaughter. Anything that they could find that matched what could happen is being thrown at her. I'll keep you guys posted. Thank you guys for sharing and getting her story out there and supporting her. I told myself that wasn't going to cry on the internet anymore, but this is a great step in the right direction, and I'm so glad that Ashika's voice was heard through her family and through her friends and through the community. So like I said, when I'm back on the ground in Florida, I will keep you guys updated. Y'all.
Of what she did in terms of, using her pistol and firing through the door at Ashika. So it has been stated that Susan, as of right now, has been arrested and that charges are pending. So I did want to point that out. But what really bothers me with this whole entire story is that, for one, we've seen this play out with the boy that lost his life when the police filmed it on camera of his losing his life. I can't think of what his name is, but somebody put down in the comments, and it was because of those videos that they took swift justice. But here it is once again, we got a situation where there were no videos of the actual shooting that took place, and it seemed like that the police department did not want to do their due diligence and go ahead and put her and arrest her right then and there on the spot for what she did. A lot of people are saying that if the tables were turned and it was a black person, that it would have been a different outcome. And I definitely do believe that it would have been the case. But because of the fact that here it was, you have a older white lady. She was 58 years old. For whatever reason, they wanted to protect the identity. They did not release the identity of her. I also want to go on record to put that shade room, when it made the initial post, they too put unidentified woman to protect her name, and a lot of the people in the comments were upset with that, but they did find out what her actual name was, as well as the family member who I showed you on TikTok. She also confirmed that this was the person, indeed, Susan Lawrence, that actually pulled the trigger, who was 58 years old and outside yelling racial slurs to the woman's kids. Also, I wanted to also put a clip in here of Ashika A.J. Owens' mother and what she gave from her perspective about her daughter. Take a look.
Yes. Is there anything you want to correct about the way that I told the story?
Thank you, Joy, for the opportunity to speak with you. I would like to say that, yes, there was an iPad left behind. My grandson, the daughter of Ashika, did go back to retrieve it. The woman, Susan, did have it. The white woman, Susan, had it, would not give it back to my grandson. An item was thrown at him. He went home to tell his mother, as any normal child would do.
Yep.
As a parent of any child hearing such news would go to the adult home to ask what happened. She simply knocked on the door. The woman shot her through the closed door with her son, 9 years old, standing next to her.
Let me ask you about the...
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. Go on.
My daughter did, as I said, any parent would do. one to talk to the adult to find out why she had his belongings, why she threw items at her child. She simply knocked on the door, was unarmed, no weapons, just wanted answers, wanted to speak to another adult regarding the incident involving her 9-year-old son, who was standing next to her.
And let me ask you about this, because the sheriff has tried to portray this as a feud, but these are little kids. You know, these are babies that are playing with what kids are supposed to do. It is your understanding that this woman called the children racial slurs? I'm assuming I know what racial slur.
So you all saw that. So she stated that her daughter posed no imminent threat to Susan whatsoever. She stated that she simply went over there as a mother to knock on the door and actually, you know, confront her in a respectful, civilized manner regarding on Susan that had been stated allegedly throwing the skates at her kids, as well as throwing the iPad and breaking it, which led to the kids going to get Adrica AJ Owens, their mom, in the first place, and coming back over there to Susan's house. Now, a lot of you all may disagree with me, but I really did feel bad, and I kind of started thinking on it. If it was me, knowing that we live in a climate today of where we have so many people who are trying to take us out, I don't know if I necessarily would have went over there and knocked on the door per se, but maybe I would have called the police and went over there to knock on the door just to de-escalate the situation, because like I said, these days we've seen it happen over and over again. People finding every excuse to take us out. And then when it happens, it's always a thing of, oh, well, I felt like my life was in danger. No, you didn't feel like your life was in danger. Just go ahead and call it is what it is. You had a moment of where you saw an opportunity and you took it. And I felt like that was Susan's case when it came to what she did to this poor woman, leaving these children now as an orphan. And it saddens me. The mother did state of Adrica AJ Owens that she would relocate down to Ocala to make sure that the kids still stayed around, you know, their community, their friends. So she is going to take on guardianship of Adrica AJ Owens' 4 kids. That was stated as you saw in the video. So I was happy to hear about that. We do see that Ben Crump is going to be representing them as an attorney. As you all know, he takes on a lot of these you know, racially motivated cases where things like this happen, unfortunately. And so it's just sad, y'all. Like, it's really sad. And what it really all comes down to, which is why I feel like the police dragged their feet as much as they did initially, is the stand your ground law. I feel like it's going to come down to whether or not, if it can be proven that Susan stood her ground by feeling like that she had to protect herself in self-defense on her own property because of these people, being that these people, Adrica AJ Owens, her 9-year-old child, who was not armed or with anything, who did not seem to be confrontational when they went over there. They just simply knocked on the door. But that's what it's going to come down to, is unfortunately this stand your ground law down in Florida. And y'all know Florida never gets it right. We've seen it with George Zimmerman. We've seen it just over and over again numerous times, with the guy that was playing the loud music at the gas station, and the older man went and took his life. The young black guy and the older white guy took his life. We've seen that happen. It happens a lot every time, and I feel like Florida never gets it right. So now here it is, you have a stand your ground law, and that's what it's going to come down to, is if there was an imminent danger or, you know, a threat posed that would have led to, you know, the need for self-defense. Now, according to the statute of Florida as it pertains to 776.03, it says I believe this is a stand your ground law, but it says home protection, use or threatened use of deadly force, presumption of fear or death or great bodily harm. I don't believe that Susan feared for nothing in her life that she was in danger or to be, you know, presented with great bodily harm, because of the fact that you got to keep in mind, this was a woman who, it had already been stated on the record, would constantly go and terrorize them kids and call them all kind of names. Her mom even said, Ashika AJ Owens' mom even said that she would go out there and call them all kind of names. When the situation happened up to the last minutes that Ashika AJ Owens was alive, she went out there and called them all kind of names and had been stated that she throwed them skates at them kids, okay, as well as broke their iPad. So for anybody to feel like that they was in danger of their life, you're not just gonna sit up here and instigate and throw one rock in one hand and hide the other hand and then try to play the passive aggressive, oh woe is me and I just fear for my life. That ain't how it works. No. So we're not giving you a pass, Susan. Okay? Not today, not any day. And you best to believe that them people are not going to rest down there in Florida or anywhere in the United States as far as it pertains to Ashika AJ Owens when it comes to getting justice for her. As they should, because what you did was completely wrong and out of character. And at some point, I keep saying this, even though I feel like that it's not the problem of the whole thing of guns, but there is an issue that I feel that needs to be brought up when it comes to people that do not need to be having guns and doing this exact thing. And so there has to be some kind of balance. Either you're going to take the guns away, or either you're going to have to do some serious background checks or go and confiscate and run some more checks on these people who already have guns and stuff like that, because this don't make no sense that we are having to continuously have this conversation over and over again. It doesn't. It's ridiculous. At some point, it has to stop. At some point. With that being said, like I stated, it stated that Ashika AJ Owens was pronounced dead at the hospital, and that as of right now, charges are pending, and that Susan, as of right now, as I record this video, has been arrested on at least, I know, child abuse, manslaughter charges, anything that they can, as far as put along them lines. When it comes to murder and stuff like that, they are definitely pending and slapping them charges on her and racking them up, which I felt like that the Marion County Sheriff, they wasn't going to have no choice but to do so, because there's just way too many people that had been aware of the situation ongoing, and they knew what the outcome could possibly be, which unfortunately it has come to pass. So I feel like that at some point they were going to have to release her identity as well as go back and take her in. They should have never taken her or escorted her, I feel like, in the first place to protective custody, to try to give her all kind of special treatment because they wanted to prevent or de-escalate or prevent maybe a riot or from people sitting here coming and trying to play judge, trial, and jury to begin with. No, they should have just arrested her from the get-go, put the charges as pending, and then we deal with the rest as we go along. You don't get no special treatment. You don't get escorted for what? Did Ashika AJ Owens get escorted? No, she didn't get escorted. She got escorted to an ambulance and then to a body bag. So no, this not how this works. But you all leave down here in the comments on what your thoughts and opinions are. I will continue to follow this case. Please pray for the victims and the families. Please pray for the kids. As far as that were affected by this, her 4 kids. I do know that there is a memorial being held, which I will post right here, on Monday, June the 12th, excuse me, at the Immerse Church off of 5105 North US Highway 441, Ocala, Florida, 34475, to celebrate the life and legacy of Ashika AJ Owens as they pay tribute. So if you do want to go to the memorial, feel free to do so at that address or send flowers or luau. And then also there's a GoFundMe, which I will try to find a link and put it down in the comments. But until next time, my fun side, just keep the family in your prayers. I'm out. Peace.